Welcome to Mama Tales, a podcast on our collective motherhood journey. I'm your host, Sally Kuria. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time listening, karibu sana. It is an honor to have you here, and I do hope that you stick around. New episodes like this will be coming your way every single Tuesday, and they feature experiences that have made lasting impacts in our parenting journey. Do you have a story you would like to share? A moment or moments that made you the parent you are now? We would love to hear it. I always say every story is powerful, and you might be surprised by how impactful your experience is to anyone listening to it. Check out the show notes of this episode to find out how you can submit your story to the podcast. I am also very grateful to each and every one of you who made it to the virtual event that I was hosting last week with Ivy Kathungu. I sat down with her and asked her all your questions on co-parenting in Kenya. While the video is up on YouTube, I will be sharing the audio version of it today for anyone who wasn't able to watch it there. I want to thank our sponsor Bundles and Snuggles for helping me make this session a reality. They are your one-stop shop for all your baby shopping needs, and I'm actually running a giveaway with them for the next couple of days. I have created a little hamper with things that I believe are essential for new mothers, whether it's your first, second, third, or even fourth baby. If you'd like to enter for yourself or for a friend who you think deserves a little care for their journey ahead, please enter the giveaway. You can do that by letting me know who the hamper will be for in the comment section of the YouTube video. The giveaway closes on Thursday, 8th of February. Here's a bit of what's coming up from our conversation.
So, for example, let's say this parent was given access every Friday to Sunday. So they've done the first Friday to Sunday. Then as the months go by, from now, Saturday to Sunday, then Sunday only, then they disappear completely. So you can either go back and ask the court to review the terms and give your reasons. Okay, so it's no longer working. If it's affecting the children mentally, are the children seeing a counselor? Can the counselor do a report to show how this is affecting them? Mm-hmm. But you must never be the one to deny. Okay. You can never just sit and go and say that you will not give custody or you will not give access because somebody is not doing what they should be doing as per the court order. You must never take the law into your hands.
It's time for the highlight of the week, this little nugget of time where we look back at the week to moments that brought us joy. My highlight this week comes from something that actually happened on Sunday. We decided to take the kids to Karura Forest to play in the amazing outdoor playground. I decided last minute to pack up some pineapples for them to eat since it's also a picnic ground. We got there, placed our bags on a table, and without a care in the world, we went to the playground. The kids were having a ball, moving from one playset to another. Then when we got to the swings, I saw off the corner of my eye, like some people are chasing monkeys away and looking at our direction, holding sticks. That's when it hit me. The kids' pineapples now belonged to the monkeys. I was actually surprised by my reaction. I thought I would freak out, but I just continued pushing my son on the swing and signaled my husband who was pushing my daughter to go check it out. Eventually, I joined them and I found him trying to convince my daughter that it was in fact on purpose that we brought the pineapples for the monkeys and we would go home and get ours because we had more. It took a bit of convincing, but she finally thought, that sounds like a very plausible line of reasoning, especially now that we're trying to teach her about sharing. My son, on the other hand, was not a fan. He could care less about these monkeys. He was very scared of them and just held me throughout the entire time. I don't know why this was such a good moment. For some reason, it felt so peaceful. It was hilarious. And instead of stressing, I was just vibing, Sure, I was outside with the kids with no snacks, but it didn't bother me. I hope that's how I survived 2024. At least we got our dish and fork back. I think that part would have annoyed me, actually. Got a highlight you'd like to share and hear played on the podcast? Let me know. Find out details on how you can do that in the show notes. Okay, let's get into the episode. Like I said earlier, I sat down with Ivy for the second time to talk about co-parenting. During registration, I'd asked people to share their questions and we got over 700 of them. So what I did was I read each one, every one, and kind of grouped them in 3 categories and picked out questions and scenarios that I thought would best cover everything that was asked.
So there's on successful co-parenting, there's on parental responsibility agreements, and then there's on court and custody stuff.
And in each of those categories, there's questions and then certain scenarios that we were sent. That's how we're going to do this. So I think we can just start, right? And the question that a lot of people had was, how does one start co-parenting? What's the best way to initiate that conversation? And what should be the priority?
Okay. Now, how does co-parenting start? Maybe I need to first start with the basics, so that we can all understand the critical things before you even start the co-parenting journey. One, it's very important that everybody understands that all children have the same rights and are protected by the law, irrespective of the mode of entry into the world. Whether it was a child born in a marriage, whether it was a child born within a relationship that's not a marriage or a partnership, whether it's a child born out of wedlock where one of the parties is a married person and the other party is not a married person. So all these children are protected the same by the law. Now, how co-parenting comes about? You're in a marriage, for example, or you're in a partnership, or you're in a relationship. The relationship breaks down, and you have children or a child, and now you have the responsibility to bring up this child together, but you're not together yourselves as the parties. So that's what co-parenting is: the bringing up of a child when parties are separated. How does the process start? Co-parenting is usually comes about after a lot of emotional pain. Sometimes there's a lot of emotional pain. Sometimes there's violence that has taken place in a relationship. Sometimes people have fallen out. So there's usually so much emotional pain before parents can start co-parenting. So two ways: either somebody can go to court, an aggrieved party can go to court, where one is suing the other, and if they are not pulling in the weight, or two, parties can decide to go the out of court way and do what we call a parental responsibility agreement. So co-parenting can either be court sanctioned, or parties can agree to do it themselves.
Yeah. But what would happen if one party wants to do it and the other just, isn't open to the conversation?
So if one is not willing to cooperate, then you go to court.
Okay.
I like to tell people to first start with mediation or try, negotiating, because you get a more favorable outcome when you're in control of the process, as opposed to court sanction, because the court will give its orders. You have to obey whether you like it or not. So if you're able to do it out of court and negotiate and get a term or terms that are, workable for both the parents and the child or the children, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. With co-parenting comes a lot of discussions of child support, right? So what are these key areas that the court really thinks about when you talk about child support?
Okay. Now, if you decide to go the court way, and you file your case in court, the court will look at two things, okay? So there's the custody aspect, there's the maintenance aspect. Now, under custody, we have what we call legal custody and actual custody. So there's a difference.
Okay.
So legal custody is the decision-making process. So what school is the child going to attend? What system of education? What medical procedures are there? And every major decision, okay? Then actual custody refers to the possession of the child. So who is the living parent? How is the other parent going to access the child? So under legal custody, we have two. There is joint legal, where both parents make decisions. And then there's the sole legal custody, where only one parent makes the decisions. So this a lot of times affects especially issues with issuance of visas, issuance of birth certificates. That usually come, and not birth certificates, sorry, passports. That comes up a lot, because if you have joint legal custody, you must have the consent of the other parent whenever you're doing anything to do with the child. When you have sole, you're free to do whatever it is that you want without the necessary interruption or, the consent of the other parent. Now, under actual custody, so like I said, that refers to who lives with the parent, how the other parent accesses the child. Then the court will now decide on the appropriate modalities. It could be that the mother lives with the child or the children, then the father accesses them every weekend, every 2 weekends, every week. So it is dependent on every case. Yeah.
I remember when we did our episode, you talked about the key things that the court looks at, in a child, like their rights, right? Maybe you can talk a little bit about the rights of the child. And are there any rights that are given to parents when they get into this process?
Okay. When we talk about the rights of a child, I think it's the basic rights of a child. Right to education, right to food, right to shelter, all those rights that children are accorded. And all these are under the umbrella of the best interest principle. Okay. So when the court is determining these cases, it factors in the number one consideration is the best interest principle. So who is the parent whose in whose care this child will thrive more? Which of the parent is better able to take care of the children because of certain factors? Okay, so it could be that one parent is the age of the children, for example. It could be that the children are very young, they need to be nurtured by their mother, so the court says let the children live with their mother. It could be that these children wish to live with one parent, and the court actually will at times accord children a chance to express their opinion or preference if the children are of a certain age. So the court will now, award custody depending on that and many other factors. But the key thing is the best interest principle. Now, for the parents, it's more of an obligation than it is a right. Okay, so they have responsibilities, they have obligations. So we look at it that way. What are the responsibilities of a parent? You need to protect your child. You need to provide for your child. You need to nurture your child.
Yeah.
So the court looks at it that way, rather than the rights of the parent. Yes.
Okay. So I have a couple of scenarios that were shared that I'm going to share with you. See if you can be able to help the parent. My baby daddy has refused to accept responsibility. How do I get assistance? Because caring for the child is expensive and things are tea for tough. So I think the baby daddy is not acknowledging the child.
Okay. So 2 ways. You can choose to go to court.
Okay.
And, sue him for child support. Or 2, you can decide to just extend an olive branch. Try and see whether you guys can agree on something. Sometimes because of the acrimony, suggesting negotiations between parties in an acrimonious situation might seem a bit, insane. But it's good to try. It's always good to try. If all else fails, then the court is there. But it doesn't harm trying. Reach out, say, come, let's sit and discuss. But if that doesn't work, it's okay. The court is there for you to do that.
Does there have to be proof that that is actually the father?
Yes.
Who bears the burden of proof? Is it the mom?
If there's a dispute in paternity, the person who alleges that there is a dispute then asks the court for a DNA test.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just file an application in court and ask that party subject themselves and together with the child for a DNA test. And if paternity is confirmed, then you have to take up responsibility.
Okay. Second scenario. What happens if the child is not comfortable with the other parent? My son went to the dad's house over the holidays and he kept insisting I go get him. On asking why he doesn't want to stay, he said that the stepmom pinched him on the cheeks because he poured water when his dad was not around. He used to get very excited to go there, but now I am worried about the sudden change. Should I stop co-parenting because the dad said the child is also lying?
Now, there's two, I think I picked two elements in this. One, there is a new party in the picture.
Yep.
And two, there is the child's comfort and or discomfort with the situation. Now, I think this is a very slippery slope when it comes to new partners and how children adjust to the new partners. I think for one, the main parties, that is the father and the mother, need to sit down and understand the situation. Because I would want to assume that the mother is hearing this information from this child. Has she sat down to express the concerns that she has with the father and the stepmother? Because now it seems like the stepmother is also now a party in this. Then how best do we move on? Because then the stepmother will be in this scenario, maybe, I don't know, maybe for the long term, for the short term, who knows? But then the person of interest is a child. So how then do we best make this environment or facilitate an environment where this child is comfortable being in both homes? So it's very critical that she airs out her frustration to both of them. I think it's important that they all sit down and then they find a way forward. Because you see, the thing is, you can't just keep the child on your side and then deny them a chance to be with the other parent. Because they equally need their dad. So then how do we move forward from this? So if it's a discipline issue, who has the right to discipline the child? Does it extend to the stepmother? If the stepmother picks, some sort of bad behavior from the child, how then does she also ventilate the issue? Is it to the dad? Is it to both parents? So they need to sit down and agree on such issues.
As a trio. That makes sense. Last one. How do I co-parent with an abuser without destroying the parent-child relationship?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. When abuse is in the picture, there is first the difficulty that comes with, violence and abuse, and the fear. Actually, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of negative emotions that come when there's violence in a relationship. And unfortunately, a lot of times the courts will say that if this party is not abusive to the child, then there's no way they are going to curtail access or they're going to curtail access of this party to the child unless this parent is, there's risk or there's threat or violence towards the child.
Okay.
So how then do you navigate it? One, ensure you have a restraining order against this person. Okay. So restraining him from coming into your space. So now you have to work around having the access outside of your space and with perhaps the help of a third party. So it could be that access is at a neutral place, for example, a mall or whatever. Or if the child actually sleeps over at the other parent's place, that's fine. They could be accompanied by a nanny or any third party that is a trustworthy third party who will take care of the child. So that then you shift the access from your place and then to another place so that you at least you're protected within your space. Number two, you need to also minimize communication. I know I advocate for communication between the parties, but sometimes communication is not healthy. So you need to minimize communication in terms of don't engage each other too much. Be very precise in your communication, okay? So if it's pick up and the drop off times, be very clear on that. If it is, for example, there are orders to pay fees and whatever, let the other parent or the other party just pay directly to a school. Figure a way out to minimize communication and interaction so that then you're not every day engaging with them and you're not even able to heal and move on.
Yeah.
But if the violence extends to the child, then now you have a right to tell the court, look, this child can't go to that side. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go to the second set of questions, which is on parental responsibility agreements. So, what is, I'm going to be calling it a PRA, just to shorten it, but what is a PRA? Why do you need one? And what do I need to do to get one? Are lawyers always involved? Is there a cost implication?
Okay. Now, PRA, or Parental Responsibility Agreement, as you've called it, is an agreement between parties spelling out the responsibilities of each parent and their financial contribution towards the child. How do we get to the PRA?
Yeah.
There are several scenarios. Now, you can, one, approach an advocate, ask the advocate whether they can be involved in the process. And usually it starts with, some sort of meeting, so the parties meet together with the advocates. One party can have an advocate, the other party can just be, self-representing. And you work towards a PRA. There are other informal ways. There are people who get an elder or a best couple or somebody they trust, somebody of authority, who then sits them down and they agree on co-parenting modalities. You can also go to a children's office. We have children's offices in all, counties. You can go to a children's office if you guys are you're not seeing eye to eye. Then the children's officer in charge there will call the other party, and we'll try to just go through the issues and try to come up with an agreement. Sometimes people go to mediators. There are mediators, though not many people know where to find these mediators, but there are mediators out there who specialize in that. They just get parties to talk, they come up with agreements. Or, for example, if you've already filed a matter in court, actually, the court has what we call court annexed mediation. So sometimes one party will request for the file to be taken to court annexed mediation, or both parties will actually agree, maybe this court process is not what we thought, let's just try and mediate.
Yeah.
Then people get into what we call a mediation agreement, which is a parental responsibility agreement in itself. So there are ways to go about that. Now, the key thing when it comes to PRAs, there has to be good faith. Okay, there has to be good faith. There has to be open-mindedness. Okay, you can't have hardline positions. Okay, because we are negotiating. We are trying to see then how do we move from point A to point B. Okay, fine. You had said that you are going to give 100,000, but okay, you could just readjust because of factor A, B, and C, and you give 120. You maybe you felt that this other parent was to see the child only 2 times, but then because of factor A, B, and C, you're like, okay, it's okay. I am willing to let the child go to the other side for a couple of more days. So there has to be good faith. There has to be patience. And hearing each other, listening, hearing each other, and just extending grace to each other for you to be able to get into an agreement. So what is in an agreement? So there are 3 things, basically. The issue of custody, like it is in court, the issue of maintenance, and what I'd call general principles of co-parenting. So under custody, similarly like in a court, you discuss the legal custody, you discuss the actual custody. Now, when it comes to access terms, if we have a live-in parent and the other parent who's having the access, nothing is cast on stone. Okay, just because your friend was given every alternate weekend doesn't mean it has to be like that. What works for you and your co-parent and your children? There are people who will have children will be alternated in homes every week. There are others Monday to Thursday, Thursday to Monday morning. There are others 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. So it varies and it changes on a case-to-case basis. So it's upon the two of you to decide what works for you. Now, if you're getting into a PRA, most likely you're getting into a joint legal custody sort of arrangement. Now, in terms of maintenance, 5 key things, are included. So there's the issue of education, there's the issue of shelter, there's the issue of clothing, there's the issue of food, and there's the issue of education. Yes, education, shelter, clothing, food, and medical. Sorry, medical. Yeah, 5. So those are the 5 actually which the court looks at, but also these make up part of the PRA. So between the two of you, who is in a better financial standing? Are you able to take up the bigger bills? Do you want to itemize everything and the costs and then, split 50-50? So again, nothing is cast on stone. It's the two of you to agree. Do we draw up a budget? If the budget amounts to 100,000, does person A contribute 50, the other one 50? Is it 30, 60? So please be open-minded. Yeah. So just try and see how best you can work around the finances. Then we have now the general principles. Okay. So this is in terms of, are you raising children in a certain faith? What kind of communication is going to be taking place? Are we communicating through WhatsApp or email? What's the turnaround time for the communication? What's the situation with the extended families? Are our children allowed to see the extended family? In terms of introduction of new partners, after what period of time are we saying is good to introduce the children to these new partners? In terms of just agreeing that, communication will be civil, communication will be respectful, and all those things. Those are general principles. Yeah. So I'd say those 3 things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, because you'd imagine the PRA just has the maintenance part. So even the nitty-gritties of communication of when partners are involved, all of that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because there's another question that comes from someone and they're like, away from finances, can you compel a co-parent to be a father figure in your child's life? Like, to just be there, not necessarily in a financial way. Is that something that can be on a PRA?
Unfortunately, no. Because a parent needs to want to be a parent.
Okay.
You can go to court and get court orders. You can get into a PRA. But if somebody doesn't have the initiative to be in their child's life, there's only so much you can do. I mean, if you say they're an adult, you really can't force an adult to do anything they don't want.
Yeah.
So it's up to a parent. And that's why I said for a PRA, good faith. What does good faith mean? That you're interested in participating in the process. You're interested in bringing up children in a certain way. You have to be an honorable parent for a PRA to work. So you can't want to get into a PRA and then you decide as and when you want to, to go by the PRA. So you have agreed that you will be picking children every weekend. Then suddenly you're not picking children. I mean, it distresses the children. It distresses your co-parent. So there has to be an element of responsibility, good faith, and being an honorable parent.
Yeah. But what happens in that case where someone violates things in a PRA, either the things in the good principles or maintenance things? Is there anything that the other party can do to enforce these things?
Yeah. Now, so you've gone to your advocates or you've done a PRA out there, then you have signed it and you have sat on it, because a lot of people do that. That's just a gentleman's agreement, okay? And a lot of people are in distress because then you got into an agreement, you never filed it in court, and now somebody is going against the agreement. You don't know what to do. So once you have the agreement in place, file it in court.
Okay.
Yeah?
Don't just
file
keep it in your
you
computer.
must always file your PRA in court. It is adopted as an order of the court, and now that gives it enforceability.
Okay.
So in the event that a party goes against what you agreed, you can always go back to court and ask the court for help.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. There's this, just getting back to the financial part, because that was really big for a lot of people. This 50-50 thing, is it really 50-50? Or say, for example, I think I saw one that said that their partner has purposefully probably refused to get a job so they don't have to pay child support, right? how does someone really navigate that financial inequality? Do you call it inequality? Like lack of balance, imbalance?
Yeah. I think what people misunderstand is because the law says equal responsibility,
Yeah.
but equal doesn't mean 50-50.
Okay.
Okay. Equal, I think equal for me is everybody needs to pull in their weight and not necessarily
In the same
equally or in the same way.
Okay.
So, for example, that's why you had me say if you're itemizing your bills, if now you're going the PRA route, who has more money or who is in a better standing to
Yeah.
pick up the bigger bills? A lot of times, what I see happening in courts is that the father is given school fees and school related expenses, medical. Then the mother is given shelter because she's the one who's living with the children, if she's the one living with the children, and clothing. They can decide, the court can decide it's 50-50, and then food, and the father supplements something. I don't know where or why people would think that, I mean, just because you're not working or because somebody else is picking up the slack, you can just ride on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody was to file the case in court and the court heard that you're not providing anything because you allege that you're not working, then you'll be punished. Because you see, the needs of the child don't stop whether or not you're working.
Yes.
And the thing is, now in such a situation, for example, the court will not grant you mercy per se or just give you grace. But if you were in a PRA and you guys are civil towards each other, the other parent would say, it's okay, I will give you a grace period of 3 months. I'll sort everything out.
Yeah.
Then once you're back on track, things resume. But when there's a court order in place, it doesn't matter whether or not you're not working. You have to pay because, the child has to eat. Yourself, how are you surviving? So the child has to eat. The child has to go to school. So sometimes don't just joyride, because the other person is speaking. Not even sometimes, all the time.
Yeah.
Don't think that you're evading or you're escaping, because the court or the law will catch up with you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into some scenarios.
Yeah.
What do I do when I haven't been co-parenting for 13 years, and now my baby daddy wants to be in my son's life just to see or talk to him over the holidays, but he contributes zero to the upkeep of the child? Does this parent need to engage?
Yes. Because you need to remember, this is not about you. This is about the child. And we say that the child requires the love of both a mother and a father. But now, if he's been missing for all these years, then there has to be a way to reintroduce him into the life of the child. I know it is upsetting. Actually, it is very upsetting and very inconveniencing, because somebody has just showed up and they demand or they want to now play the father figure. But you can never be the other parent denying a child the other parent, okay? Because let the child experience the parent for themselves.
Yeah.
But then how do you go about it so that you don't damage the child? You need to slowly transition this child or introduce this other parent. So you could engage a child counselor to help the child understand, because this can be very overwhelming for a child. You have not known a father for 10, 11 years. Then suddenly there's a man appearing and he's telling you that he's, your dad. So you need to engage a counselor to just help now this child understand, appreciate, and start to form a relationship. Yeah. So that's your role now as the mother. That don't deny. So try and foster or try and create an environment where the child feels safe to even interact with this person. Yeah.
Okay. Another one is, what happens if we are amicable and we are both financially stable to take care of the child, but we have a non-verbal, we have a verbal agreement. Do we need a PRA?
Yes, absolutely. There's nothing like a verbal agreement in parenting.
Like you just need to,
Yeah, that's what I call the gentleman's agreement. You
yeah.
must always write it down. You file it in court and get it as a court order.
Yeah. And even if both of you are financially stable,
Yeah,
it's
because
okay.
you see, who knows the future?
Yeah,
You know? So you'd rather protect yourselves, both of you. It goes both ways. Yeah, so things could change.
Yeah.
Your financial stability could change, or your financial situation, things could happen, unforeseen circumstances. So it's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last scenario here. My wife took my kids, went back to her parents on account of me losing my job. I am financially unstable and unable to take care of their needs or contest the move. She, however, has a well paying job. What steps can I take to remain relevant in my kids' lives and also not appear like I absconded my duties?
Okay. Now, like I said, because you're financially unstable doesn't mean that you don't do anything for your children.
Yeah.
And support could mean many things, okay? Sometimes we are so engrossed in looking at support only on the financial bit. So it could mean visiting your children. It could mean staying to do the homework with them. It could mean many things that are not necessarily financial.
Yeah.
Are you making the effort to communicate with them? There's many ways you can show up for your children. Now, because you don't have a steady source of income, how much is the unsteady source? Okay. If you are earning 100 and maybe now you're earning 10 to 20 or whatever, how much of that can you give for these children? And you see, this is a thing. People actually understand when you're going through financial challenges. I don't know why people think that the other party won't understand.
Yeah.
If it's a genuine case, then most often the other party will understand that, look, things are bad for this person and it's just for a short while. But then you have to also show commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not just seated saying that now my children are in, shags with the grandparents. I don't have money. Then you just sit, wallowing in misery. So you have to be proactive if you want to be in your children's lives. Yeah. So he can start the conversation with the mother of his children. Like, ask her to then, or rather, I want to assume that she's actually just doing the most of, the financial contribution. But let her know that, you're working through things. At least within a certain time frame, you should be better off. See how you can chip in. Yeah, just discuss. And I'm sure even the parents of that girl wouldn't want to deny you merely because you don't have the money.
Yeah. I remember there's a question I saw where I think it was a dad asking if my partner has decided that they do not need me in this child's life, is there something that we can write to just say that I have been kicked out so that this woman doesn't come back later?
You can never relinquish parental responsibility unless, of course, there are ways if you've given up your child for adoption. But you can never just sit and say, I am no longer in my child's life, unless then you agree that the mother of your child has sole custody where she makes all the decisions. But to just say that I have now said that I don't want to be in the life. I mean, you there has to be a formal process at least. Then go to court or you guys get into an agreement and let her have sole custody, because I guess now that means, or what I understand him to mean, is the decisions. She doesn't want him to be part of the decision making. But you can never wish away a parent. I think people need to realize that it doesn't matter how terrible they were or they are, or how much you dislike them. You can never wish away a parent, and they have rights as much as you do.
We're gonna go to the last section of questions. And the last one is on court and custody. So, because there's quite a lot of people who registered that said they're already in the court process. And a very common question that came up was, what happens if a partner ignores court orders to pay support or do visitation? What are the process or the procedures towards enforcing this?
Okay. Now, I usually see enforcement come about when it relates to money.
Yes.
Like I think I said earlier on, you can never force a parent to want to participate in their child's lives.
Yeah.
So if they are not showing up as ordered by the court, there's only so much you can do. What you can do is then ask the court to review maybe the access terms, okay, to reduce the amount of time if they are unable or if they are not willing to abide by what was said by the court. But when there is disobedience when it comes to maintenance, there are 3 ways you can get help from the court. You first must apply for execution. You have to go back to court and do what you call an application for execution. Now, you ask for the court's assistance either in 3 ways. One, you can have warrants of arrest against the person. You can attach somebody's salary, and you can attach somebody's property.
Okay.
Now, number 2, attachment of salary, because I see a lot of misinformation out there that you can just one day wake up and go and attach somebody's salary. You can't. There has to be a court order sanctioning that. And even then, you can't attach more than 2/3 of somebody's salary.
And what do you mean by attaching a salary?
It's now the salary, your employer cuts part of your salary or takes out part of your salary and pays directly to the co-parent. It's like a standing order. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like a standing order. So you have to have a court order. There are some organizations, however, I think international organizations, where if they even catch a whiff of somebody absconding their parental responsibility, especially financially, they will take measures within the organization. But that's not the day-to-day Kenyan organization. Yeah, so you can those 3 ways. Warrants of arrest are very effective, and it's quite sad that, but I have to say that it's very sad for that people have to wait for an arrest warrant to be issued for you to pay up what you need to pay up.
Yeah.
It's quite embarrassing, and I don't think it should get there. It should never ever get to a point where somebody has to file for execution. But sometimes you just have to. Yeah.
Just a follow up on that is, now if the parent is just showing up erratically like that, are there any legal consequences for the living parent to deny when they denied visitation? Because if it causes anguish to the kids, can they just deny visitation? Will there be any consequence?
You must never go against a court order. Okay. So for example, let's say this parent was given access every Friday to Sunday. So they've done the first Friday to Sunday. Then as the months go by, from now Saturday to Sunday, then Sunday only, then they disappear completely. So you can either go back and ask the court to review the terms and give your reasons. Okay, so it's no longer working. If it's affecting the children mentally, are the children seeing a counselor? Can the counselor do a report to show how this is affecting them? But you must never be the one to deny. You can never just sit and go and say that you will not give custody or you will not give access because somebody is not doing what they should be doing as per the court order. You must never take the law into your hands.
Yeah.
So you have to always go back to court, because what happens is if you now don't give access, they rush to court and say they've been denied access. Yet they're the ones who wanted to just, access the children erratically.
Yeah.
So always ensure that whatever decision is backed by the court. Yeah. So go back and ask the court to review the terms.
Yeah. And what are the circumstances that can lead to a father getting full custody?
Interestingly, we are seeing changes where now, we used to say that mothers were best placed to have custody of children, especially children of tender years. These are kids below the age of 10. But now things are changing. It's no longer the norm. So the court will look at several factors. Why 0 to 10 was custody was granted to mothers was because, they are young, they
Yeah.
need to be nurtured and all that. But sometimes there are exceptional circumstances. For example, if the mother is not well mentally, or, the law says, case law talks about immorality, women of, who are immoral, but that is very subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree,
So
that's
what constitutes immorality for one does not constitute
Yeah.
immorality for the other. But exceptional circumstances, maybe the mother wants to leave the country, and the children are very grounded in the country, and
Yeah.
the father is the one who is going to remain. So the court could give him custody. But we are seeing it's actually numbers are rising
Yeah.
where fathers are getting
Full
custody, full custody. Yeah.
And on that custody thing, if an absent father comes back after not being there for a while, does the parent now have to formally share custody? If they didn't have, they probably just have by default sole custody. The father comes back. Now, do they have to?
You can choose to. You can choose to overlook and try rebuilding a relationship, or you could wait for the other parent to go to court.
Okay. Leave it on them to.
Yeah. You just let them go to court and see what the court says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's get into the scenarios. If my child's father's name is not on the birth certificate and the father passes on, can I claim for anything that the father leaves behind?
That's a very interesting question,
Yeah.
because now it even gets into the realm of succession. Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, you can. But then you would have to go through a DNA. Your child rather would have to go through a DNA test. Then that would mean getting the father of your baby daddy's siblings for a sibling DNA, or his parents, so that then they can ascertain that this is actually a child of the deceased.
Yeah.
So then that is sort of complicated, because I think most of you know how succession court is, can be complicated and long and tedious. So if you find yourself in that situation, yes, you can. You can always approach the court, and if paternity is disputed, then you conduct a DNA test to just confirm that your son or your daughter was the child of the deceased.
I've just remembered another question on the certificates. Do you need the father's name to appear on the child certificate if you're getting into a PRA?
So yes and no.
Okay.
If and I don't know whether there are those ones who are out there who are okay with not being on the birth certificate. If that's not an issue, then you can go ahead. But it's important that you're on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
It's just, it gives the child an identity, So if you're not, you're not bothered about not being on the birth certificate, but you're still willing to go on, I don't see why not.
Okay.
But it's just advisable that to be on the birth certificate.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a question on Sharia law and child support for Muslims. How far can Kenyan law go into helping a child's custody case in that court of law?
Now, if we are talking Sharia law, there's two ways. You can either be in the Qadhi's court, or you can be in the children's court. You see, those distinct courts, those two are distinct courts, and they have different principles. What they share in common is that the child's best interest is of paramount consideration.
Okay.
Now, if you profess the Islamic faith and you come to the regular courts, the court will expect you, as the mother, to also contribute. Under Sharia law, within the Qadhi's court, it's the responsibility of the father fully to support the child. So you need to think about it, because sometimes you get people who don't like the decision they got in the normal children's court. They have now rushed to the Qadhi's court because they don't want to contribute, because under now in the Qadhi's court, it is the father's responsibility. So I don't know whether then now that person who's asking whether they have now filed in the Kadhi's court or in the normal, children's court. But that's the difference.
Depends.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm about to file for divorce, and the father is a sole provider. Does he automatically stay with the kids, stay in the house, or should I try and get full custody?
No, it doesn't automatically mean he stays with the children. And now this brings in the issue of who is best placed to have custody. And while financial capacity is a key element or a key consideration, it doesn't mean it's the only consideration.
Yeah.
Just because the other parent has more money doesn't mean they're entitled to have custody. There are all these other things. How old are these kids? He has the money. Does he have the capacity to care for these children the way you're doing? So now these are the discussions that would probably best be had in a mediation session.
Yeah.
Okay. And agree. Okay, fine. It's okay. You have the money, but you're not, more capable than I am, or you're not as able as I am to take care of the children. Because he could have the money, yes, but is he there? Is he present?
Yeah.
Yet the mother has the time. The mother knows the children's routines. So those are things that need to be considered. Financial muscle just does not mean that you automatically get the kids.
Okay.
But it is a consideration.
All right.
Yeah.
What happens if a parent is using their financial standing to manipulate things? Either keep the kids away from you because you can't do it by yourself. How does this mother protect her rights?
You can go to court. Yeah. If somebody is frustrating you to the extent that you can't agree on anything, you can always go to court.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the court will not deny you your children. Yeah. The court will never deny a parent the children unless they're a danger to the children. So if you feel that they're not, you guys are not making progress, and the demands are that I have the money, I have to have the children, and I will lock you out, then it's better to then approach the court. Yeah.
There's another one of a couple of them actually. Either parent is not in the country or one of them is a foreigner. How do I enforce child support? Do I go through the embassy? Is the Kenyan court the right way to do this? What's the best way?
And it's quite a challenge for people. I like to say that it's easier to get what is it called? To enforce some orders in the country that person is president. Because here you will go to court, then you will get orders, for example, where do we find this person? To have him, pay, or unless the organization that he's working for, and you can write to that organization and ask for his salary to be deducted, then it's easier sometimes to file in the country that he's at, so that then even his, he can be managed there by the authorities there. Okay, whether it's him, whether the court now establishes where he works, it's easier to deal with that jurisdiction than it is when you hear you've gotten orders. How do you then enforce in a new jurisdiction? It's very complex, actually. It's not easy. Yeah.
Okay. We have come to the set of questions that didn't necessarily fit any of the three, but I think are very critical for us to look at.
Yeah.
One, does it get easier for people who are starting out? Does co-parenting get easier?
It does.
Okay.
It actually does. When you're starting on a co-parenting journey, there's a lot of, there's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Most of the times. Lack of clarity. There's a lot of mixed emotions. So even before getting to just understand each other now when you're separate, it takes time. Don't beat yourself up if you're starting this journey. But it gets easier with time.
Yeah.
How much time is dependent on the parties, because I tell people you can decide to make it difficult. Okay, you can decide we will be difficult to both of us. If you say this, I say this, this is my position. We'll not grant each other grace. We will not be patient. So you can decide to make it difficult. But once you prioritize your child and understand that this is for the benefit of the child, then you figure a way out and you figure a way to deal with the other co-parent. In fact, somebody said something, you have to love your child more than you hate your co-parent for co-parenting to work. And it is true. So you focus on your child. When at the start, sometimes you will hear a parent say that, when they're on that side, there's no structure. They watch TV the whole night. They eat a lot of junk. But on this side, there's a structure, there's a schedule, and it is okay. Control, you can only stress about what you can control.
Yeah.
Once you release them, it's fine. Don't think about it. Just pray for their safe return. Okay? Yeah, just tell whomever you pray to, bring my child back or bring my children back in one piece. But in terms of now, we are going to start fighting about here they sleep at 9. When they come to yours, they sleep at midnight or they watch TV the whole night. It will not work. Yeah, we must never bring ourselves to splitting of hairs.
Yeah.
Or because I don't know, these ones I don't know what they are fed what here. Then when they come to your side, you feed them this and this. No. Control. What you can control is what you can stress about.
Yeah.
But once they go, because your co-parent is an adult as well. You know what I mean? You can't police an adult. So once you release them, it's okay.
Yeah.
You have done your bit. When they come back to you, continue doing your bit.
Be the bigger person.
Yeah, be a bigger person. But a sensible co-parent will see how that affects children, the lack of structure. And they will want to do it better or, ask. Sometimes parents ask, they're like, okay, so when they're on that side, what's the schedule like so that I can try and incorporate it on my side?
Yeah.
So a sensible co-parent will want to be a team player. Yeah. But it gets easier. It gets easier. And I think, once you're over a mountain, I mean, you look back and you're like, that used to stress me all, and people have sleepless nights at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's hyperacidity, it's this and that, it's, whatnot. But with time, you're like, you know what? It's fine. They enjoy having two homes. Kids, when I was at daddy's, I did this. When I was at mommy's, I did this. So they have stories. They have stories. So make it an enjoyable story for your child. Don't make your child feel as if going to that side, or it is tears, or they are guilty, enjoying that side. So it's okay. It's fine. Yeah, it gets better with time.
Yeah. And what happens if the child really doesn't like the other side, doesn't want to go?
It gets to a certain age where you can't force a child to go to the other side.
Yeah.
12, 13, 14-year-olds, you can't force them. But these young ones, your role is to facilitate the relationship. Okay, understand why they don't want to be there. It could be something as simple as they go to the other side and TV is switched off at 7. They're used to watching TV up to 8. So how do we work around that? Help the child understand. Yeah, because it's not an ideal situation for everybody and for anybody in that kind of situation. So help the child understand that these are the regulations here. When you go to that side, things might be a bit different.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge helping children understand. And again, circle back to the issue of a child counselor. If you can, please get a child counselor for your child. Yeah.
So I'll ask you the very last question. How does a partner to a person who is co-parenting best support the situation?
Interesting. Very interesting. How to support. Okay. Number one, if you're coming into a situation of, or rather you're getting into a relationship with somebody who's co-parenting with another, you need to first understand the boundaries. And by boundaries, I mean what system is in place first. What system is in place? Okay. What kind of communication is taking place between these two co-parents, so that then you don't find yourself being at the center or accused of frustrating the kind of communication they have. Okay, so you need to understand the boundaries. You need to understand you need to have talk about the expectations.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why it's very important, if you can, because sometimes people can't, if you can, sit the three of you or the four of you, because sometimes maybe,
everyone.
both parents have moved on. So to understand each other and how to then ensure that there's continuity in the system. So don't try to center yourself. Okay, then now you're fighting the co-parent, because at the end of the day, it's the child that loses.
Yeah.
So see how then you can support. It's such a thin line from the sidelines, but still within.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it will mean sacrifices. Sometimes your partner is not able to pick up. It was their weekend to pick up. They are not able. You have to rush and pick up because it's that child's weekend with you guys.
Yeah.
So it requires a lot of sacrifices from a step parent. But then always remember, you are secondary. You are not primary. There's a father, there's a mother. There's now those are the primary parties and the children. Then you are secondary. You're not a replacement. You're a bonus. I like to say that you're a bonus
good
parent.
one. Yeah.
Which is a good thing. You're a bonus,
bonus.
but you're not the replacement.
Yeah.
And you must never try to be a replacement. So if you feel that you have issues you need to raise about, maybe you've picked something about the child, talk to your partner.
Yeah.
There are people who are so free with each other, as the parent will call the other parent, on the other side. By the way, I've noticed this and this. By the way, can the child come? Even if it's not the weekend, I'm doing this thing, can the child come over? Can the children come over? So you need to establish very, very clear lines of communication as well. There has to be transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that it can work. So remember your position. You're a bonus, not a replacement. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ivy. I think the thing that I've really been getting from a lot of our conversations is, in as much as the foundation of co-parenting is a lot of pain, the best way to approach a lot of these things is to just act in good faith.
Yeah.
Just try and separate yourself from the pain to considering the kids. It sounds easy, but I think it's something.
It does.
But it doesn't feel like an easy thing to do.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And I think during the episode we did, I said everybody in this kind of situation needs to also go through therapy. The parents to be to be helped to understand how to compartmentalize everything and how to just be able to be a parent and be an individual.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because, you were in a happy union, then suddenly everything has gone left. If there was violence, you're scarred. There's all these things you're dealing with, anxiety and whatnot.
Yeah.
Then somebody's telling you to extend an olive branch to the other person who's caused you misery. It's very difficult.
It's hard, yeah.
But then when you realize that how much it affects the children, then you figure a way out. So if you can, the courts nowadays have what we call, but it's been there, but now it's more amplified, what we call a family assistance order, where the court itself says, let the parties go into therapy. There's sometimes when there's such bad breakdown of communication, something as simple as pick-up time.
Yeah.
We can't text each other. We can't communicate. We have to go through third parties or lawyers or whatever. So the court is of the opinion now, first, these ones need to be helped to communicate, or even advocates themselves, they decide, let's first help these people to get to a point where they can communicate without insulting each other. So therapy is very critical. And it goes for both fathers and mothers. So if you can, please do it.
Yeah.
You need somebody to walk the journey with you, somebody who is objective. Because what happens when you confide, let's say, in family members, they take a side. Of course, if I had a relative of mine or a friend of mine going through whatever, I'd not be objective.
Yeah.
So you need to have somebody to help you and to hold your hand as you go through all that, because you're also mourning the end of a marriage or the end of a relationship, the end of a partnership. You need to be helped to understand how that is affecting you psychologically, how you could be the one who's sabotaging your own child without knowing. Yeah, and we are human.
Yeah,
it happens.
it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us to the very end. I want to thank Ivy as well for showing up for us not only once but twice, and I fear many more times in the upcoming future. I also want to thank Summerbox for hosting us for this session. There are some requests that came that needed specific guidance, or I felt like maybe a one-to-one consultation might be better. I did put a mark on those. I will reach out to you personally, and Ivy is open to communicating, or at least you can give out a way for people to reach you.
Absolutely. If you feel that Instagram is easier, for those who are regularly on Instagram, my handle is at city-based lawyer. Please shoot a DM, or you can send me an email at ivykathungu@gmail.com.
I want to thank Ivy for taking the time to share her knowledge with us once again. You can reach her out on email at ivykathungu@gmail.com or on Instagram at city-based-lawyer, should you need personalized guidance on a specific issue. If this episode was valuable to you, I would love it if you would let me know by replying to the Q&A section on Spotify. You can also share it with a friend or two. And if you want, you can offer monetary support to this platform as well. You can find details on how you can do that in the show notes. Think about it like buying me a glass of Java's iced flower. That thing slaps. And because this heat is making things very difficult as I work on this podcast for you. So any support goes a very long way. You can also leave a review wherever it is that you listen to this podcast. That's either on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, whatever platform that you're on that allows you to leave a review. I would really appreciate it, because that means that we can be found easier. Thanks. So that's it for this week. See you in the next one. Bye.